Hey guys, so I wanted to do another talking point video. I just shot my first one all about cross-loaded carabiners. Check it out if you haven't. But now I wanted to talk about my specific top rope setup that I've slowly kind of developed over the last year through all of my work. And I want to preference that actually because like this top rope anchor I'm going to show you that I like to use is a bit more of an industrial class anchor, which I use for my days of working and belaying people on top ropes all day. So when I'm out rock guiding, this is kind of the top rope I go for. And I may change some stuff up, which I'll talk about as I go. But for the most part, if I'm going to a place where I maybe have 5 or 6 clients, and we're just running through up the same 3 top ropes, or running like 5 people up the same top rope, I'm gonna build something pretty burly and industrial. Whereas if I'm just like working with like 2 people and only 2 people are going to run up the top rope, I may do some of the more tricks like running the rope through the chain and then using one of my carabiners to redirect the rope to save wear on the chains. But this is something that I use for like large groups of people, and also when sometimes the anchors, it just makes more sense to use this sort of thing. So I'm going to start with talking about something that more you would use in a recreational sense, and that would be something like this. Is maybe a double length sling. This is like aramid fiber, but any sort of material works. So just a double length sling, you can stick it in both the bolts, and linking the rope to the rope, or linking the rope to the material with 2 aluminum carabiners. You know, you do them opposite and opposed. And so be 2 aluminum carabiners like so. And that's totally fine for many cases, and I even do it still while guiding, maybe in a more of an alpine sense, like if I had to walk up to the Baker's Seracs for an ice climbing course. I don't want to carry like heavy carabiners, so I'm going to bring my light aluminum ones and use this setup maybe with 2 ice screws. But in the rock world, the rope's rubbing through the carabiners so much, and it actually makes your rope really black and gunky, and that's the aluminum oxide from these carabiners rubbing onto the rope. Most people nowadays are moving to using lockers on the bolts as well as the master point. Totally fine if you want to do that. For years, I was using non-lockers on the bolts and lockers on the master point. Some people still do that. And then some people go for like maybe a little bit of a combo. And so for a long time, I used 2 non-lockers at both of my bolts, and I would spin them or whatever. And my big thing is, as long as the gate wasn't opening up, I was still good. So if I had the carabiner facing like this against the rock, like so, the gate's not being affected, so I'm not worried about that. If it's facing like this, that's when the gate could possibly come open, like that, and then that's when I'm a little bit worried. So if my carabiner is starting to pop open a bit on the rock, I can always spin it and put the spine against that pop open part. But then if there's something else that's going to force that gate open, that's probably when I would switch to a locker. So I did that for a really long time, 2 non-lockers at the anchors, and I would always spin them or do the little tricks in order to keep them from coming open up. And then lately, I have gone to the standard that everyone else is going to, where I use a locker and a non-locker. This idea first sort of came to me in a course I took a while back. Especially if the anchor is going to be there all day, then it just sort of helps with adding a little bit of extra security. And if I'm at the bottom of the crag not being able to see the anchor, it's nice to have that little extra bit. Now let's talk about the material that's linking everything together. And those of you who watch my videos a lot, I use a lot of Dyneema slings, and I definitely use those in the alpine. On multi-pitch climbs, I'll still use them. But a lot of times in the rock world, I want something pretty burly. And so I have a number of nylon slings. I have some quad length nylon slings and some triple length nylon slings. But in the end, I've kind of just gone back to using the good old fashioned 7mm cord, not 6mm. If you want to use that 5.5 tech cord, that's totally fine. That kind of meets the same requirements as 7mm. Yeah, this is about a 22 foot length, and I have it tied with a flat overhand here, so that way I can easily untie it for whatever I need. But most of the time this thing stays in a loop, and I can do whatever anchor I want. I can make a really long pre-equalized one. I can double it up and make a longer quad. I could most often on bolted anchors, I'm doing the triple. There we go. So I do something like that, the hex anchor, which has 6 strands. And there are different things with the quad anchor. Some people like to only clip 2 strands and leave 2 out. Some people mix between the two. With the hex anchor that I tie, I just clip 4 strands and leave 2 out. I like that combo. I also don't really like separating my carabiners between the strands, like so. There we go, something like that, because it will make, if I hold it like this, you can see how it makes some pinching with my rope. And so it may not be much, and again, it's not something that's worth worrying about if you're just gonna do a few laps on the top rope. But if you are belaying people all day, and you want the least amount of friction, and so that's why I stick to clipping a large amount of strands, like 4 strands all together with my carabiners. I also have changed up my carabiner setup now for where the rope goes. So going back to this example, these 2 pear-shaped carabiners, when they go together, a lot of these will actually create something like that. You can see how it pinches the rope along this major axis, and that does add friction, as well as this tight little bend right here with these ultralight carabiners will wear out your rope faster. And so if you want to make a wider area, between the 2 carabiners, then you can create less of a bend in your rope and have a little bit less friction and make your rope last a bit longer. And so the carabiners that I've gone to now are these. Now this is very industrial. Unless you do a ton of top roping, it's not common for people to have these, but these are steel locking carabiners. So made completely out of steel. And these are made by Camp. Actually, I really like their steel carabiners. And one of them is a normal locker, the other is just like a double action locker. And so what I do is I can line these things up opposite and opposed. And by the way they nest with each other is I don't get any of that pinching action. So it's the same wide basket that the rope can go around, and it can move all over. But also, I can create a bigger bend right here by adding a 3rd carabiner. And this is a non-locker. I put it in between the 2 lockers and create this big shelf right here. And that wide bend is really like a really good solution to make your rope last longer throughout the entire top roping season. And so I'll just clip them on, and I do like opposite and opposed with the 2 lockers, and then the non-locker is just in there for fun, so I don't really do anything special with that. Difference is, if you are going to use 3 non-lockers, then you better make sure that all 3 of those are opposite and opposed. I can clip my non-locker above, and I'll clip my locker on the other leg. And there we have the exact reasoning behind my complete top rope anchor setup. So again, that's locker here, non-locker, 7mm cord and some form of an anchor, and then 2 locking and 1 non-locking steel ovals that nest right, clipped into 4 strands, leaving 1 out. I could tie a pre-equalized anchor in the same exact setup and get the same exact result. So that's the top rope anchor that I've slowly gone to throughout my guiding now. I've been doing a lot more single pitch guiding lately. And if you want to do a day of single pitch guiding with me, then feel free to get in touch. But that's basically the setup that I've gone to. It may be quite overkill for many of you folks that are watching this with your setups when you're just out climbing with your family. But in a more institutional guiding setting, this is a really good anchor that'll help keep your gear going for a while. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Absolutely huge bus eater, ship eater crevasse. I gotta get through that falling.